Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So today I'm going to talk about how self-esteem is actually not built in a vacuum. This is one talking point that I've heard colorism content creators say that I actually do agree with. But have you ever noticed that these content creators do not go into detail at how self-esteem begins and where it begins? Because it actually begins in childhood. And so anytime I see a woman online saying that she didn't have self-esteem as a child, I immediately look at her mother. I immediately look at who her parents are, or if she had parents at all, because child development, that's really like the root of where self-esteem begins. Another thing that I've noticed is that when it comes to colorism content here on YouTube, a lot of women, they will say things like, you're putting her on a pedestal. And then have you ever noticed that when you listen to what they say about what that pedestal actually is, it's really just her getting compliments, her getting male attention, or maybe her being famous and popular and being a celebrity of some sort. And so remember, anytime someone polices something, they pedestalize it. So if they're policing light skin tones, they pedestalize it. If they're policing how popular someone is, it's because they pedestalize it. Another thing to remember is that everyone pedestalizes something. And so the people who go online demonizing pedestals, these people do not understand psychology. They don't understand sociology, because anybody who studies that would understand that, technically everybody does put someone or something on a pedestal. It could be your God that you worship. It could be your spirituality. It could be yourself that you put on a pedestal. It could be your job or your career or something like that. If you look up the synonyms for the word pedestal, it really just means that you look up to something, you hold something in a high regard, you think highly of that thing. It means that maybe you admire that thing. So maybe you really admire your mother. Well, technically, you are putting her on a form of a pedestal. But I've noticed that uneducated, unintelligent women who create YouTube channels, they think that pedestalizing is synonymous with putting down everyone else. And it's like, well, no, just because I treat my mom special, it doesn't mean that I hate every other woman in the world. And so I've noticed that these women who complain about someone else getting a pedestal, because they don't have that self-esteem, they've got that external locus of control. We talk about that a lot here on this YouTube channel. So these are the people where they don't have any self-esteem to begin with, and so they completely rely on the compliments of others. They completely rely on the pedestalization of others. And so if somebody else happens to be getting a little bit of attention, that person is going to feel overlooked. They're going to feel invisible. Remember, no one has the power to make you feel inferior without your consent. And so if a woman feels inferior because somebody else is like getting a compliment, or let's say she feels inferior because she never got a date or something like that, that's more of an internalized self-esteem problem. That's more of a social problem that she has to deal with. That has nothing to do with the other woman. And so this is why I tell women to never feel ashamed of your privileges. And by the way, when I use that term privilege, I notice that that's another trigger word for women who feel like they're at the bottom. People who feel like they're at the bottom, they feel like they don't have any privileges, which, I actually disagree. I think that everybody has privileges, but some people are just not smart enough to be able to look at their own lives and see where they have the privileges. Because once again, they've got that external locus of control. They're not self-centered enough. They're too focused on what every other woman has. What does she have that I don't have? Oh, well, her skin's a little lighter than mine, and that must be why this guy likes her. So it's a very male-centered. It's very hierarchical in nature. When I talk about overcoming inferiority complexes, one of the main solutions that I offer on this channel is getting rid of hierarchical thinking. And by the way, this channel offers multiple solutions to internalized colorism, texturism, and featureism. But that's one of the solutions. It's getting rid of hierarchy thinking. So I know that that works for me. It's becoming more self-centered, becoming as self-centered as possible. So for example, one thing that I like to do is, instead of scrolling on Instagram and looking at all the other pretty girls and looking at how cute their hair is and all that stuff, instead of doing that, I might look at one picture and say, that hairstyle is cute. And then for the next 30 minutes, instead of scrolling, I'm going to look in the mirror at myself. And I am going to attempt to do that hairstyle, or look at, what type of bangs suit my face, what hairstyles look the best on my face shape. Instead of researching what type of face shape does this celebrity have? What type of skin tone does she have? I'm actually going to look at myself and search, what is my face shape? What type of undertones do I have? There are so many women out there where they have such an extreme external locus of control that they don't even know their skin tone. They don't even know their own undertones. They don't even know their own hair texture. They don't even know their own body shape or like what types of clothes look good on them. And that's because they have neglected themselves for so long to the point where they don't esteem themselves. They do not have any self-esteem. But I want to say though that at the same time, self-esteem really is not built in a vacuum. It really does start with your parents. And then as you get older, I believe that there's actually nothing wrong with receiving micro-validation. But I've noticed that some women, they conflate validation with like you being a colorist. So let's say you happen to be light-skinned and you're pretty and you dress up or something like that, and then somebody compliments your outfit. I've noticed that some women, they'll be like, oh, well, that girl, she only complimented you because she hates herself. And, she's a dark-skinned black woman. And so she only complimented you because you're light-skinned and because she looks down on herself. And so she's complimenting you. And women who have that mindset, they have a scarcity mindset. They have this mindset of there can only be one. And basically, it has to be me. So I've noticed that women who have no self-esteem, they tend to struggle with narcissism. These are the types of women where you have to walk on eggshells around them. They're going to lecture you. If you don't agree with everything they say, then they will literally get mad at you. But when it comes to the colorism conversation, I want to start off by saying that compliments are not colorism. Colorism, no matter what definition you use, colorism is when you directly disparage somebody of a darker skin tone. Like if somebody were to say, dark-skinned women are at the bottom, that's actually colorist. And guess what? Who are the main people who make those comments? It's literally black women with that skin tone. So as long as you are not directly disparaging somebody else's skin tone, then it's actually not colorism. So simply complimenting somebody else, that is a form of validation. All you're doing is validating that person. And if you want to call that a pedestal, I mean, technically you can argue that that's a pedestal, but at the same time, everybody should have a pedestal. So the thing that always got to me was like, wait a minute, sis, you didn't have a pedestal this whole time? Like when women came online and they were like, oh, they're pedestalizing these other women over here, and then I'm at the bottom. I'm thinking in my mind like, wow, first of all, that's very embarrassing. I would never in my life admit that out loud if that were the case for me. But also, like, what have you been doing this whole time? You're telling me that nobody compliments you, nobody lifts you up or encourages you? And when I say that self-esteem is not built in a vacuum, what I really mean is that child development plays a role. And I also believe that some women, they don't know how to build multiple sources of positive, healthy validation in their life. And by the way, the number one way to cut off your self-esteem is to become antisocial. I just want to put that out there. So usually it's the men and women who are very antisocial. They have no human interaction. They're basically like these incels and stuff. They only go on the internet and that's it. Antisocial people tend to struggle in this area because there is nobody around you for you to interact with. And I'm not saying that you have to go out and like be thirsty or anything, but I'm just saying basic, healthy human relationships. Did you know that when it comes to prisoners, they have this thing called solitary confinement, which is basically a form of forcing that person to be antisocial. So they will not touch that person. They'll just slide their food under a door. They won't look at that person. They'll just lock them in like this dark room with no windows or anything because you get energy from the sun. So of course it's a room with no windows. And the reason that that is a punishment is because studies show that antisocial people, the less human interaction you have, the more likely you are to go mentally insane. And so that's why it's actually a punishment in prison. And so I've noticed that usually it's people who have antisocial personality disorder and they don't know that that's what they have, but they're actually very antisocial. They don't talk to anybody. They're not friendly to anybody. First of all, the level of entitlement is insane. If you are rude to other people, if you are naturally disrespectful and like you interrupt people when they're talking, you don't listen to anybody, you don't compliment anybody else, why would you expect people to randomly compliment you? This is another sign of antisocial personality disorder. You can't pick up on social cues. You think that if you walk into a room, people are supposed to just randomly notice you. That's actually proof that you are antisocial and you don't hang out with normal human beings, because normal human beings engage in conversations. Conversation means that there are two people talking, there are two people listening to each other, they're respecting each other, they're not interrupting each other and speaking over each other and getting angry and all this shit. You have to basically do unto others as you would want them to do to you. And so I've noticed that a lot of women who are extremely antisocial, they don't interact with the world, they stay cooped up in their apartments, they have no friends or family or whatever. These are the types of women who sometimes struggle with their self-esteem. And it's because they don't have positive memories to look back on. One of the things that I notice about people with high self-esteem is, first of all, they have achievements, but also they have positive memories. When I think of a woman who's confident, usually she will have fun memories of like going to the park with her friends or going to Disneyland when she was a kid, graduating college. Maybe she has good relationships with her family and stuff like that. And so your memories also have an effect on how you view yourself, because think of that word, esteem. It means that you're actually putting yourself on a pedestal, self-esteem. It's a form of self-pedestalization. And so the first thing you want to do is, yes, put yourself on a pedestal, but if you would like to receive external validation, healthy external validation, that is totally okay. And so this is why I will never apologize for receiving compliments. I will never apologize for anyone who has pedestalized me or held me in high esteem, because I 100% believe that I deserve to be highly esteemed because I am a respectable person. I view myself as a respectable woman, and so I believe that I actually deserve to be respected. If I put myself on a pedestal, why would I get mad if others treat me the same way that I treat myself? And so one thing to remember is that anytime someone shames you for being put on a pedestal, they're only doing that because they're hoping that they can guilt you into not enjoying your life. They don't want you to enjoy those compliments. They don't want you to enjoy that pedestal. They don't want you to feel validated. They want you to feel disgusted when other people compliment you. And so it's actually a manipulation tactic because they don't receive any compliments. And so they're trying to get you to have guilt. I call it privilege guilt. So you are guilty for being pretty, you feel guilty for being pedestalized, you feel guilty for getting positive attention. Okay, sorry, I had to go to a different room to finish recording this, but when I think about external forms of validation, I just want to let you guys know that, like, first of all, external validation is not bad. Receiving positive validation and being put on a pedestal, that is a good and positive thing. I believe that everybody should put themselves on a pedestal, and everybody should only accept treatment where they are put on a pedestal. This is why they have a phrase called "go where you're celebrated." And so have you ever noticed that sometimes people will contradict themselves and they actually expose their own jealousy, because they'll tell you to go where you're celebrated, but then they get mad when you're actually celebrated and not them. And it's like, well, sis, I'm just trying to do the same thing as you. I'm going where I'm celebrated. But I've noticed that for some women, they are not very self-aware, and so they won't admit to themselves, wait a minute, I want to be celebrated in this scenario and not in that scenario. So one thing that you can actually ask yourself is, where is it the most important for you to be celebrated? What aspects of yourself do you care about being celebrated the most? And by the way, there is no wrong answer. Like, for me, I care about being celebrated for my beauty, and I enjoy being pretty. I enjoy being celebrated in that way. So any aspect of my beauty that someone celebrates, whether it's a man, a woman, a child, who cares who's giving me the compliment, I'm going to eat that shit up. I'm going to soak it up. I'm going to enjoy the compliment. I do not feel guilty about it. I enjoy when other girls comment on my outfit or on my nails and stuff, especially the small details. Like if I'm at work and then somebody's like, oh, I love that nail design that you did. That makes me feel good inside. And that's actually something that contributes to your self-esteem, because that person is giving you a form of positive, healthy validation. And another thing too, when it comes to being pedestalized, the things that you like to be pedestalized for, it's really nobody else's business. So if you want your skin tone to be pedestalized, regardless of what it is, whether you're dark skin, light skin, brown, cinnamon, whatever, if you want your complexion to be pedestalized, first of all, that's nobody's business. It's nobody's business what you want. Your internalized desires are not something that you have to share with other people. So you can actually keep those things a secret. You don't have to tell your friends and family, hey, I want people to celebrate me for my beauty. I'm only saying that because, like, this is anonymous, so who cares? You guys don't know who I am. You're never going to meet me. So I don't mind saying this stuff out loud. But your desires are nobody's business. And also, the areas where you want to have high self esteem, that's also nobody's business. And something else to remember about self esteem is that no one has perfect confidence 100% of the time. There's no such thing. So, no, Beyonce doesn't have perfect confidence 100% of the time. There is no such thing as a person that is perfectly confident in every single area of their lives. Oh, they're confident in their beauty, their intelligence, their talent. They're good at bowling. They're good at eating healthy. They're super disciplined in every area. No, there's no such thing. So, that's another thing that I've noticed. Women who have lower self esteem, part of the reason that they have low self esteem is because they don't actually know what self esteem is. They don't understand that self esteem is multifaceted. There are different aspects of who you are as a person, right? You're more than just a skin tone, right? You're more than just your beauty, right? And so that means that you have multiple areas where you get to pick and choose, where do I want my self esteem to be the highest? And like I said, there is no wrong answer. So for me, I know that beauty is one of those areas where I want to feel confident. I know that, like, my intelligence is so important to me. One of the reasons that I actually made this YouTube channel is because in real life, I always felt like my voice was never heard. I felt like I was seen and not heard. I felt like because of the way that I looked, people had a hard time taking me seriously, whether it was in journalism, in accounting. I would go for all of these very high level, very professional jobs. And I kind of felt like people judged my looks and they kind of would stereotype me almost, or they would kind of give me almost like this bimbo type of stereotype thing. So I didn't like that in real life. And so coming on to YouTube, where I'm not showing my face, nobody gives a fuck what I look like. Well, unless they're a hater, then they do. But nobody cares what I look like. This channel is not me showing myself. I'm not being judged for how I look. And so this YouTube channel is actually a huge source of validation when it comes to my intelligence or my voice, or, being able to speak about the things that I care about. And that is a part of my self esteem. A part of where I get my confidence from is speaking out about the things that I care about, and also feeling heard, feeling like I have a voice, feeling like I'm making a difference. And so that's another aspect of self esteem. So technically, if I would have come on YouTube and I had 0 subscribers, 0 views, or if I never would have had a YouTube channel, let's say I were to go mute or something, then I would be sad because I don't get to use my voice anymore. So that's another aspect of self esteem. So technically, any interaction that I get, any engagement that I get on my channel is technically building my self esteem. This is why I don't mind if people criticize me. I don't mind if people drag me, because it's still building me up, because I am still getting attention for the things that I'm saying. And I'm not ashamed to say that because, like I said, this is anonymous, so who cares? I can just let it all hang out on here. But I've noticed that when it comes to self esteem, different women have different values, and that's okay. Some women are very male centered. If you are male centered, this is obviously not going to be the channel for you. But some women, they're very male centered, and so their self esteem is really, it's coming from men. And so they would get mad. Let's say if you get male attention or something, then they get all pissed off because that's where their self-esteem comes from. I personally, I can't do that because I just feel like I prefer to be in control of my self-esteem. I don't like when my entire self-worth is dependent upon another human being, because human beings are very fickle. And so this is why I will never recommend male-centered self-esteem, or anything male-centered at all. Male-centered femininity, male-centered self-esteem, male-centered standards of beauty. This is why I don't recommend any of those things, because human beings in general, male or female, they're very fickle, they're very indecisive, they change their minds, they're wishy-washy. But at the same time, I understand that self-esteem is partially built based upon compliments, different streams of validation. And so that's a question you can actually ask yourself, like, what are my sources of validation? What do I care about the most? And again, there's no wrong answer. So I know that I care about um, my personal beauty and pretty privilege because I enjoy the social power that comes from it. Other women, they like pretty privilege because they like attracting men and they have more of a male centered view of pretty privilege. They like attracting men, or they like, I don't know, being a model. Maybe they want to go into a field where their looks matter a lot. So maybe they want to be an actress, a model, an influencer, I don't know, an Instagram baddie or something, some sort of reality show, TV star. So for them, their pretty privilege standard is more Hollywood centered, or it's centered around social media. So technically, like I said, there's actually no wrong answer. And what makes me annoyed is when people try to push their beliefs onto you. Anything I say on this YouTube channel, nothing I say is advice. This is not an advice channel. I would never want to push my beliefs onto you. You know yourself better than I know you, and you're the only one that's living in your head. So everything I say on here, always take it with a grain of salt, because it really gets on my nerves when people think that they know better than me, or when they think that they know me better than myself, and then they try to tell me what to do. Like, no, we're all grown here. We're all adults. And so that's why I say that there's no wrong answer. I'm just telling you guys my perspective on this. But one of my other external sources of self esteem, like something where it really enhances my view of myself, it is my achievements. So I'm very proud of the fact that I graduated from college. You know, I graduated from high school, graduated from college. I'm proud of that. I am very proud of the fact that I have lived in multiple different parts of the United States. That's actually a very big part of my self esteem. My experiences actually shape my self esteem. And so that's why I had to move out of my hometown. I couldn't just stay in my suburban town that I grew up in, you know, with that one group of people, because it would have affected my self esteem negatively. And so I knew that I always wanted to be one of those girls that was like very adventurous and classy, and like she's well traveled. She's lived all over the country. I've always wanted to be one of those girls who has a bunch of stories to tell. And actually, I do have a bunch of stories to tell because I've spent my life building up my experiences and making sure that I've got multifaceted, multicultural, multiracial experiences so that I can like be a more interesting person. That is a part of where I get my self-esteem from. I mean, I'm just being honest. I care a lot about my experiences. So I'm actually one of those people that will get depressed if I just live in the same city, work the same job, just work, come home, repeat for the next 80 years. I'm not like that. That's actually going to make me extremely depressed because I don't have enough like experiences and like new things happening. So I've noticed that a part of my self-esteem is I need new experiences. I need to be able to explore, basically. I want to be able to experience the world, experience different cultures. And so I don't like being a small town suburban girl. That's just me personally, though. There's nothing wrong with you if you like that, but that's a part of where I get my self-esteem from. It's knowing that, hey, wait a minute, no, I've lived in the South. Wait a minute, no, I've lived on the East Coast. I've lived on the West Coast. So you can't come to me and manipulate me and try to tell me things about all of those different parts of the United States when I've lived in all of those parts of the United States. And by the way, whenever I move to a new city, I try to live in that region for multiple years so that nobody else can manipulate me and say, oh, well, you know, so and so, this group of people is colorist, or these people are anti black and that part of the United States. It's like, well, no, I actually feel like a smarter person when I have experiences to back up what I'm saying. So I've noticed that my experiences, that contributes to my intelligence. It contributes to like anecdotal evidence. That's really what they call it. Anecdotal evidence is when you collect experiences. It could be your own experiences or the experiences of others, and it helps you to kind of make a judgment. I know you shouldn't judge people, but I personally, I think that having good judgment, that's a very good character trait. My personality type is an ENTJ. And so, yes, a part of my personality type is judging. It doesn't mean I'm judging other people in a bad way, but it just means that having a lot of experiences, traveling to a lot of different places, that's very important to me. That's actually a very big part of my self-esteem. And so technically that is external because I have to go and live in a new city. Well, I don't think I'm going to be moving anytime soon when it comes to where I live right now. But when I was younger, I felt like, hey, I can't just live in my hometown. I can't just live 5 miles from my parents and this is all I ever see. I have to go out and kind of explore because that makes my self esteem go up. Knowing that I have independence, I've noticed that's another part of my self esteem. Knowing that I can take care of myself, I can like pay my own bills. And when I say independence, I've noticed in the Black community, for some reason they have like a very negative connotation with that. I kind of feel like that's red pill gaslighting because they don't want you to be independent. They want you to be codependent. And so that's why they're shaming independence because literally the only other option is codependence. And so I'd rather be independent than codependent. And I know that there's another term called interdependent, but I feel like even interdependency requires just a little bit of codependency. And so I also don't really like that either, to be honest, because like I said about people, I think people in general, they're very fickle, people change. So somebody could wake up tomorrow and decide that they don't want you in their life anymore. And so I like knowing that I can have my own back, having my own sense of independence. I have my own car, my own bank account. I'm smart. I know how to read. Reading was very important to me. When I was a teenager, I really wanted to read. I really wanted to learn new words. For a lot of you guys who follow my channel, you know that I like to look up words in the dictionary. I will pull up the meaning of a word. You know why? Because it makes me a smarter person, number one. And number two, it makes it much more difficult for you to manipulate me because I can literally pull up the definitions of the words that you used and then I can flip it back onto you and be like, oh, wait, you're shaming pedestals, but you are seeking after a pedestal because you're saying to go where you're celebrated. A synonym for being celebrated is the word pedestal or being pedestalized. Another external source of my self esteem, kind of like a form of micro validation, is self awareness. And I feel like there are a lot of different tools that I use to become more self aware. So, one of them, obviously, is psychology. I love studying the personality types. Well, actually, no, I like studying my personality type because I told you guys I am self centered when it comes to my own internalized standards because that's the most healthy for me. That's why it's called self esteem. It's supposed to be self centered. But my personality type is an ENTJ. I'm very aware of all of my strengths and weaknesses. And so that's another thing. Like, if you don't know your personality type, and especially if you're into that, you can take one of those little short quizzes. Most of you guys probably already have taken one, and you can just look up different things about your personality type. Did you know that they have Reddit groups? Like, I'm a part of the Reddit ENTJ, the little group on there. They also have these cute memes where it kind of describes your personality type. For the more spiritual pretty girls, I know that some of you guys are into astrology. So you guys are into like if you're a Scorpio or if you're a Cancer. I'm probably going to do a video about that because I just feel like talking shit about it. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like I have to rant and get certain things out of my system. But yeah, so maybe for you, it's looking up your sign, or it could be looking up your Enneagram. So I'm an Enneagram, of course. I'm an Enneagram 3, Wing 2. I know it's a little bit cringy. It's so funny because I feel like everybody else, they get so hype about their personality types and their signs and all that. But I'm like, I'm an Enneagram 3, Wing 2, an ENTJ, and a Scorpio. I'm like, oh shit. I feel like I literally have like the three worst possible. I feel like I literally have the three most infamous personality types. But no, that's actually a lot of fun for me though, because it's very difficult for other people to use your personality weaknesses against you if you already know what your weaknesses are. So I know what my weaknesses are. I've been actively working on them for about 10 years now because I just love psychology and all that. But that's a part of my self esteem though. And that is technically external because I am looking to psychology as a tool. Like I'm using something external as a tool to build myself up. Another thing that I really like to use as a self esteem building tool is my social interactions. So, you guys know I'm an ENTJ, so I'm extroverted. So, I enjoy socially interacting with people. I love making new friends. I'm the type of person where I will go to a yoga class and then I will like walk up to a girl and be like, oh, hey, what's your name? Oh, it's nice to meet you. And then I will like get people's phone numbers and then like make friends and stuff. I don't know. I'm like that in real life. But that's actually a part of how I build my own self esteem. That's technically external because I am utilizing positive social interactions and kind of like this sisterhood type of thing. I'm using that to help build my own self esteem. Actually, I'm technically doing that online too, like with the pretty girls, especially with like me interacting with other creators on YouTube and stuff. That is technically a form of still socializing because there are a lot of other content creators that are introverted, so they don't interact, they don't comment on other people's shit. They don't interact with other people, they don't collab with people, they don't give a fuck. But for some people, their social interactions matter. And I've noticed that a lot of the women who have low self esteem or the women who come on YouTube and complain, usually their complaints are about social interactions. Because remember, it's never about social justice, it's always about social status. Social status means you have positive social interactions. Because if a person has status, all that means is like you treat them nicely, you treat them special, maybe you compliment them, maybe you give them some perks like a free drink or something. All of that is a social interaction. And this is why I say I think that some of the women who have bad social interactions, usually they have some sort of antisocial personality disorder, or, they're just not a likable person. They're not good around people. They're not good at making friends, or maybe they're not good at talking to the cashier or talking to the clerk, or maybe they're extremely introverted to the point where they don't even respond. Like I've been around some teenagers where I will say hi and then they just look at me and then they don't say anything. So there are some people who are so antisocial to the point where they're actually too scared to even say hi. But I've noticed that one of the kind of external ways that I build my self-esteem, it's by having positive social interactions. It's by having friends that I can text and then I can be like, hey, do you want to go have a picnic or do you want to go out for brunch? I love that. Like, I eat that shit up. I love the positive social interactions. I love like posting the selfies and stuff and having like a girl group. This is really random, but one of my goals actually for when I moved to this city was I really wanted to have a black girl group. Oh my God, I can't believe you said a black girl group. I thought you hated black women. Exoticals United? But no, anybody who actually follows me, they know that I don't have anything against black women or men or anybody. But no, seriously, I really wanted to have like a black girl group, black slash mixed black. It didn't matter what kind of black, unambiguous black, biracial black, mixed black, whatever. That was one of my goals. I really wanted to have a group of friends in my 30s. I didn't even know that that was like possible. I thought that that sort of thing ended in college, but no, it actually does not end in college. That was one of my goals. And so now I have my own little group. So we have like a little group chat, we make our little girls' night plans and stuff. But that is actually a positive external source of self esteem. It's having positive social interactions, it's having friends that pedestalize me and I pedestalize them because I'm that type of friend. And so I don't want friends around me who do not pedestalize me because I naturally hold my friends in high esteem. And I've noticed that when people use the word pedestal, what they think it means is like I'm putting myself down and I'm lifting the other person up. And I'm like, sis, what have you been doing your whole life? Like, do you not understand English? Do you not understand the definition of words? Like, that's actually not what that word even means. It really means you just hold that person in high esteem, you respect that person, and hopefully they're doing the same thing. So if we're both on pedestals, nobody is actually higher than the other because I'm on my pedestal, you're on your pedestal, I respect your pedestal, you respect my pedestal, and that's it. And then we hype each other up. It's not like a competition. I've noticed some people, they have such a hyper competitive mindset to the point where they literally think everything's a competition. Self-esteem is a competition. Beauty is a competition. How many friends do you have? That's a competition. How many followers do you have? What kind of purse are you carrying? Who's your boyfriend? How tall is your boyfriend? How many likes do you get on dating apps? Everything is a competition. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds exhausting. Something else that is external that builds my self esteem is my lifestyle. So, when I talk about the soft life, I feel like everybody's trying to attain the soft life. That's why they want pretty privilege, is because they want an easier life. They want to look a certain way. They care about skin tones or hair textures or whatever because they feel like all of those things lead to an easier life. And so, I've noticed that my lifestyle and how soft my life feels, that is a huge factor in my self esteem. So, when I think of women who are like maybe they're like a tired mom or something. They're like in a hypogamous marriage, and maybe their husband is a bum, and then they've got like 5 kids, and then they're really poor, and then they're struggling. She's working 3 jobs. She's neglecting herself. That would make my self-esteem go down. And so that's how I know that like my lifestyle and having like free time and going to spas, it's really just the going to spas part. That's a really big part of my self-esteem actually. Going to a spa, getting my nails done or getting a massage or getting laser lipo or like some lashes or something like that, it literally builds my self-esteem. And it's not just about the lashes in and of itself. It's about the fact that I can afford to do that. It's the fact that I have the time or the money to be able to do that. That makes my self-esteem go up. And so technically, that's external. That is an external version of building my self-esteem. And so this is why I say self-esteem, it really isn't built in a vacuum. I think that the majority of it should come from within, like yes, self-validation and stuff, but there are also micro validations that come externally, and it helps to pump you up even more. Have you ever noticed that whenever you're confident, people have a tendency to call you arrogant? Yeah, that's because that person, they have no self-esteem. So they don't know what it's like to come across a person who is assertive. They don't know what it's like to come across a person who is like, she's good with her boundaries and like she has a good head on her shoulders. They automatically associate that with like being conceited. And have you ever noticed that whenever someone calls you conceited or arrogant, they can never give you an example of how you are conceited or arrogant? It's like, oh, I think I'm better. Okay, how? Well, it's because you dress up all the time. Okay, so because I dress cute, then that means I'm conceited? Well, no, it's because you always take up all the attention when guys are in the room. Okay, so it's because I receive compliments? No, it's just you think you're so smart because you're starting a business. Okay, so because I try new things, that's arrogant. Like, have you ever noticed there's literally, they can never give an example. They can't give an actual example of what's conceited or what's arrogant. Everything that they describe, they will literally be describing basic self-confidence, trying new things, wearing makeup, expressing your femininity, expressing personal style, wearing whatever clothes you think look cute on you, or having good social skills. You're getting a lot of compliments. You light up the room. You're the life of the party. None of those things are arrogance. None of those things are being conceited. None of those things mean you think you're better. Being confident to talk to a new person, being extroverted, that doesn't mean that you're arrogant or conceited. And I was actually thinking about doing some videos on like being the pretty introverted girl, and then doing another video on like being the pretty extroverted girl, and kind of the stereotypes that come with it, because I've noticed that there's this very like damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. Because if you're a pretty girl who's introverted, then you're stuck up because you don't speak to nobody. And then if you're a pretty girl who's extroverted, then you think you're better than everybody and you're soaking up all the attention because, you're walking up to people, you're talking to people, you're mixing and mingling. So you just think you're the star of the show. So it's literally just you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So now let's talk about the male gaze. Notice how for the first 40 minutes of this self-esteem video, I said nothing about men, but I do want to say that for some women, the male gaze is actually a part of their micro-validation routine. And by the way, it's a part of mine as well. But when it comes to the male gaze, I only like the male gaze from a distance, okay? So I don't need a bunch of guy friends. You guys know that I don't believe in having male friends, so I don't need that much male attention. Like, no, I'm good because I have my reasons for that. A lot of guys, they will try to harass you. They'll try to like fuck you. They'll try to, no. So, but for some women, they want that sort of male attention where it's like they've got 10 guy friends. They've got a bunch of guys in their phone. They're doing all this. No, for me personally, when it comes to the male gaze, for example, I don't mind if I'm walking down the street and someone nods at me and smiles or looks at me, or if somebody, like when I was at the trail the other day, this little Mexican boy, he was like, oh, you're so beautiful. He probably thought I was his age. I'm 32, but I look like I'm in my 20s, or at least that's what people say. Maybe they're just being nice, or maybe it's the Botox. I don't know. But no, I don't mind the male gaze from a distance. So, just a compliment or some sort of Instagram like or whatever, that's not a big deal to me. But for some women, they want every type of male gaze. They want every type of male interaction. They want dates, flowers, guy friends. They want their best friend to be a guy. They want everybody's a guy. You know those girls where they only hang out with guys? Maybe I should do a psychoanalysis on that. That sounds like fun, actually. The psychology of a woman where she has no female friends whatsoever and she has all guys. That's actually sounds interesting. Maybe I'll do that. If you want me to do a video on that, please comment down below. But no, for some people though, the male gaze is one of their sources of self-esteem. I personally, I don't have male-centered self-esteem, so that's why if there's a guy complimenting me or not, I don't really care because I believe that men are women-centered in general. And so if you have pretty privilege, you don't even have to worry about that. That's why I don't prioritize it. But for the women who feel invisible, that's very important to them because they've never had that. They don't have an abundance of male attention. So they have a scarcity mindset where it's like, oh, this is the only white guy that's ever looked at me, so I have to make sure that I like get his attention. Oh my God, this is the only non-black guy. I'm a divester. This is the only non-black guy that likes me, so I have to like really hold on to him. But if the male gaze is a part of your self-esteem routine, it's up to you to decide, okay, what kind of male attention do I like or dislike? Like I just said for myself, I don't want male friends. I don't need a guy to be my friend, okay? If a guy wants to buy me a drink or something, like let's say I'm single or something, I'm at a bar or something. Well, actually, I don't even drink alcohol. But let's say I'm at a coffee shop, someone buys my coffee, or if somebody like buys my groceries or something, or they just give me money. Like I've had people hand me cash before. This is really random. Why am I saying this? Oh my God. But no, like if I need something and then somebody like pays for it, I don't mind stuff like that or just a random compliment. So you get to decide though, what type of male gaze are you okay with? Or do you not like any of it at all to where you're like, nope, I want to be celibate or I want to be LGBT or something like that? This channel supports, I don't care what type of woman you are. This channel supports any type of woman, whether you're celibate, LGBT, 4B, decentering men. I would say the only type that this channel does not support as much is like the male-centered women or the women who are like extremely like some sort of red pill woman or something. No, this is not the channel for you. Maybe I'll do another video on the members page where I go over the different types of male gaze because generally speaking, there's the social media male gaze. So this is just likes and whatever. There's kind of like the dating scene. So for some women, they like to be wined and dined. When I was single, I liked just like being wined and dined and stuff like that. I didn't care about, oh, I want him to like pick me to be his girlfriend or wife or whatever. I have to prove that I'm wifey material. I didn't care about any of that at all because my level of decenteredness was like, regardless, he's probably going to most likely be trash. I'm just saying, statistically speaking, 80% of men make less than 100K. 70% of your non-married relationships will end in a breakup. And so this is why I didn't care, but I did enjoy just the whining and dining part. I've noticed that I like that. So like with my boyfriend, I do like when he takes me out all the time and stuff like that. That's the part that I enjoy. So for some women, they only enjoy certain aspects, or maybe you don't enjoy any of it. But that's another source of technically external self-esteem because you are feeling special. Like if somebody says, I'm going to send you $100 for you to buy lunch, that makes you feel special. And so that is valid as well. That's still a valid desire if that's what you want. Another part of my self-esteem is social climbing. So when I say social climbing, what I mean is upward mobility. So for example, going from living in a ghetto neighborhood and having no money to living in a luxury apartment to one day having a mansion or some sort of penthouse. Or, I will say I do care a little bit when it comes to cars. I do not believe in car payments though. So I've actually never had a car payment. Fun fact, I've never had a car payment and I do drive, I guess it's technically like a luxury car. Well, no, it is a luxury car. So I would say over the last 5 to 10 years, I've decided that I only want to drive like a luxury car. My cars are not new though. It's not like a 2024 or anything like that. But as long as it's some sort of nice brand, I care about that. So I've noticed that I do care a little bit about social climbing. I don't so much care about like my clothes being designer and all that. That's not important to me. And I'm not willing to go into debt though. That's another thing. If I'm going to purchase a luxury car, I'm going to just buy it outright. Thankfully, I haven't had to do that either. I've actually had multiple cars given to me. Maybe I'll make some videos about that too, because that has to do with social climbing and having good relationships. Having good relationships is extremely important, just so you know. If you're an introvert, I would say Well, actually, I think introverts can be good at building relationships, but just in general, for me personally, the biggest asset that I've had in my life has been having positive relationships. And I'm not talking about romantically, I'm just talking about in general. So this could be with my parents, with my siblings, with my aunts, with my cousins, with friends, just friendships in general. Everybody that I meet in real life, I really do try to be very kind and nice. Not a people pleaser, though. I still have boundaries. But in real life, though, I have maintained a lot of positive relationships, and it has really helped me because a lot of people give you free stuff if you have a good relationship with them. And by the way, I've given other people stuff too if I have a good relationship with them. I naturally like to help people, and I've noticed that if you know how to attract the right people into your life, that can help you tremendously. So that's actually a skill that I've been building for like the last 10 years, knowing how to vet friendships, how to vet like who to work with. And sometimes I will get screwed over, but I would say about 80% of the time, it's going to be a positive interaction. So even on YouTube, I like to interact with other content creators. You guys have seen about 80% of the time, it's a good positive interaction. And usually the person I'm interacting with is a legit person. About 20% of the time, I may get screwed over, but it's still worth the positive 80%. So the good outweighs the bad when it comes to my friendships and stuff. That's very important to me. And that's also a positive source of external self-esteem. I consider that to be kind of like social climbing, but I've noticed that a lot of people, they demonize social climbing, and that's because they don't know what it means. They don't understand that they are actually social climbing. Like if you make a YouTube video talking negatively about social climbing, you're actually a hypocrite because you are social climbing by creating the YouTube video in the first place. If you have a social media account of any kind, you are technically social climbing because you're trying to be seen, you're trying to be heard, you want a platform for yourself. That's a form of social climbing. But that's another way that I kind of build my self-esteem. It's technically external because I'm utilizing my social relationships in a positive way. And obviously, I am a good resource as well in terms of friendships. And that's another thing that I ask myself too, like, what is my friendship type? I've noticed that my number one priority for friends is I just want friends to do stuff with. I don't want friends where I'm telling them my deepest, darkest secrets because that's a therapist. That's what a therapist is for. I don't want friends that I trauma dump on. That was a huge mistake that I made. That was a social climbing mistake that I made when I was a teenager. I didn't need friends back then. I needed a therapist. I didn't need people where I'm giving them all my little teenage relationship drama. No, that's called trauma dumping. That's very draining. And another mistake that I made when I was a teenager was getting friends, just being friends with everybody. So the downfall for me as an extrovert has been being friends with everybody. Everybody was my best friend. When I was a teenager, I was like, basically, I was too mixy. So I would like mix and mingle with everybody and anybody. I didn't really have any friendship standards when I was a teenager. So now I have learned to take a tip from the introvert and to be exclusive with my friendships at this point. And so that's actually a part of my self-esteem, though. I only associate with women who are leveled up or they're also on their level up journeys because then they don't have time to be jealous of me. They're too busy running their businesses. They're too busy being fabulous. They're too busy enjoying their pretty privilege to be worried about my pretty privilege. And also, there's a difference between a woman who's like pretty on the outside versus a woman who has a pretty girl mindset. Because that's another mistake that I made when I was a teenager. Sometimes I would judge my friends based on their looks, and I would think to myself, oh, well, she's pretty, so like, yeah, we can be friends. But then if she doesn't view herself as pretty, then like it's still going to be a problem. But another way that I build my self-esteem externally is by showcasing my creativity. So having this YouTube channel, that's a form of showing my creativity. Fashion is like a big deal to me. Kind of showing off my style and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be like anything expensive, but I just mean, kind of expressing myself, dressing a little bit differently than other people sometimes. There may be a time where I do like a dramatic hairstyle, so like a really big fake ponytail. Like I'm talking about like the fake ass synthetic ponytails. Yeah, sometimes I might wear a fake ass synthetic ponytail because I'm just feeling dramatic that day. I just want to creatively express myself. I want to be seen. And there's nothing wrong with that. In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with it because I already have the internalized self-esteem. I already have my internal validation, so I don't have the fear of being seen in real life anymore. Another way that I like to kind of playfully build my self esteem is through my sense of humor. So in real life, I will make jokes. I will like compliment people. If a guy is interested in me, I'm interested in him. I'm gonna flirt my ass off. I mean, he's gonna also flirt though too. I mean, he has to flirt first though before I am flirting. I love like kind of the flirty energy. I love playful energy. I noticed that I actually do really well with children in real life. So I've done like teaching and stuff, and this is more so back when I was in the church. I've like worked with kids and stuff, and that's because I like to use my playfulness and kind of like these playful social interactions as a way to actually build up my personal view of myself, because it kind of plays back into social climbing and like being perceived in the way that you want to be perceived in. I've just noticed that I like playing around with that. I like playing around with my charm. I like to be kind of silly and funny. Like in real life, I'm very goofy and silly. I feel like when I'm on YouTube, I literally sound like a newscaster. So I feel like people are imagining like this Hillary Clinton like white woman or something behind the screen. But no, in real life, I'm really silly and I try to be like carefree and stuff. And so that's another way that I am technically building my self-esteem, but it's actually external because it has to do with other people's interactions with me. Something else that I do is building competence. So I will take courses, I will educate myself on something, and technically that has to do with other people because other people are actually judging your competency. So, for example, as a content creator, I know that I am a highly competent content creator when it comes to my talking points. I know my weaknesses and stuff when it comes to content creation, but in terms of consistency and my talking points and explaining things, giving you the who, what, when, where, and why, I'm competent in that area because I have studied that. By the way, sorry if you hear fire trucks in the background, but that's technically external because other people are looking at me and saying, wow, you're really good at this. I've noticed that I like being good at things. And then if other people compliment it, that's nice. That's like a nice form of micro validation. So one of the things that I tried to be good at, well, I'm okay at it. I'm not super good. But like whenever I go to yoga class, I've noticed that I really do try to do a good job on my little poses. It's really nerdy and dorky. I don't do it in a mean way. I'm not like competitive, like, oh, I need to do it better than her. But I just like being good at stuff. Um, so, yeah, I guess those are some of the ways that I am technically building my self esteem, but it is not built in a vacuum. So, what are some of the ways that you build your self esteem? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.